Hello, my name is Anton Lapov and I am one of the recipients of Displaced Ukrainian Scholars and Students Fellowship, and I want to introduce you to my practice by means of sharing my website mainly, which you can visit later, and I hope it will be provided as a link somewhere below this video, which I pre-recording right now. And I want to start on 5-6 project which was quite important to me to the development of my practice, and yeah, I want to start probably from the one of the first, which was developed and started in 2013-14 in the city where I came from and where I started my practice. It's city of Luhansk. At that point it was still Ukrainian city, not occupied. Around 2011-12 I started to play some electronic music, organize concerts and some DIY exhibitions, let's say so. And around that time I met several like-minded persons who worked mainly with music and computer graphics and some art, photography, and we created kind of unit, artistic community, which we called Art Cluster R+N+D, and we did several installations. One, for instance, in Luhansk Museum of Local History, where I worked at some point, but our main project was, I guess, Black Olympus, which we started in 2013. First iteration of that project was basically aimed as kind of to involve a local community, local people who were interested in creative approach to industrial heritage, because as probably you know, Luhansk was one of the main important city in Donbass, and we decided to touch this topic of the main element of landscape of that region, which is coal waste bank, terracons. And we asked people through social network to submit any kind of creative interaction with terracons, with coal waste banks. But basically we ended up that almost no one responded, and the group of people, I guess like 6-7 of us, went to one of the biggest terracon in Luhansk region, near city Sorokino now. Former it was Krasnodon, and we recorded our interactions there. For instance, one of us recorded some different audio recording from a radio medium by means of shortwave radio, collecting this different sound. Another person did some performance with fire, and this is me, and I decided to initiate kind of fake archaeological expedition on top of this coal waste bank, and collected some probably useless stones and different artifacts which I found on top of. So it all us together standing on top. So it was like preliminary stage of the project, and the final result was to present it as a documentation of performances projected on top of prepared painting, which was did by one of the member of our collective, Evgeny Koroletov, who is standing here on the right and me on the left. And this is, by the way, photo from Luhansk, our last photo, New Year photo we made there. We dedicated this project to festival we also organized, so everything was DIY, and that festival of electronic music and kind of art was in also one of the local club. idea also was that this video projection was to some extent audio reactive, so it responds to the sound which simultaneously played on a main dance floor, let's say so, by electronic musician. It also was electronic musician mainly from Donbas region. There was a lot of material, and basically it was collective project, and my part was mainly like co-curate, organize final production. But yeah, it was quite characteristic of my period when I started, so basically a lot of project was collective. But then, as you probably know, after Maidan events and the events of spring 2014, we almost, some of us, including me, participated in local Ukrainian Maidan, pro-Ukrainian Maidan, and around May, June 2010, it was clear for us that it's time to leave. Some of us joined volunteer army, volunteer military forces, but yeah, me including other people from that collective fled, left a lot of things behind, and yeah, basically it was our quite important project for the participant to move to different direction, and for instance, for me, I was one of the member of that initial group, Maxim Losev. We continue to work together until now, and one of our joint project, Glitchstream version 2, was based on a reconsideration and working with that archives that we both made back then in 2013. So the core of the project was manipulation by selection of photo which Maxim did. He managed to make some photo infrared light spectrum. We decided to use technology called slow scan television, which was used, by the way, for obtaining in 50s picture of the other side of the moon from space. So it's kind of like method of television broadcast which transmit one frame very slowly, like line by line. So for transmission of one frame it can take 1 minute, for instance, and it's, yeah, for sure broadcasted through radio waves. So it's a very old school kind of television broadcast, and we decided to use it in a gallery. This is initial image, and then during the process of transmission back and forth between two radio points, so we established basically two radio points, so it's kind of receiver and transmitter who was connected in a loop, and each of at one period of time one of this point broadcasted these images by means of radio waves to another, and but because of different interference and the glitch in the system, it became more and more distorted, blurred. So basically it was idea of slowly degradation of images in a feedback loop. We did like first version as addition to this Black Olympus project I mentioned. It's Mala Gallery of Mestetsky Arsenal. And then we did several iterations, and one of it was presented in Lublin 2015. Yeah, and I should mention that the image broadcasted by sound. So basically it's image decoded into sound, transmitted by means of radio waves. So beside only just having as raw material, I also use it in my own software, custom created software, where I transform it a bit into more like abstract soundscape, use it as a source material for my, let's say, improvisational composition. read more detailed description on my website. Yeah, basically it was two points, and each of us, let's say, control radio transmission receiving points. So yeah, it was one of the kind of main project which was really associated with Donbass, and where I started my practice. But slowly, for sure, I started to touch other topics, and situation in Ukraine changed, and in my practice, sure, reflect on social political issues in my country, and in general now geopolitical issues, and I try to find a way how to use technology not only for entertainment, because usually, unfortunately, new media art considered as a kind of a strange addition to military entertainment complex, but I'm trying to subvert some technology and use it for to use it in a more unconventional situation. Yeah, one of the projects which I would like to demonstrate next was prepared also in 2014, but it was already after summer 2014, after occupation of Luhansk, Ilovaisk, and it also was created with one of the participants of that Black Olympus team, Evgeny Korolev, who had his own creative and artistic path, but at that point he just was enlisted, voluntarily went to Donbass battalion. I just want to say that it was quite anxious and quite scary time in Ukraine. But the project I would like to mention called Decoration, and it was initiated and created at the Azov seashore, which was really just next to Crimea. It was art residency called Beruchi Island near Genichesk, which was mainly dedicated to more conventional painting genre, but also they welcomed musicians and some strange interdisciplinary people as me, and that project was quite also DIY and let's say tactic, but I think it's quite well captures the mood of the time and our attitude. So the idea was quite simple, probably. So it was old, let's say, recreation base on a seashore with a lot of small huts, small building built in Soviet period. So it was at the age of, let's say, gentrification and conversion, probably into more luxury building. And we decided to use this one of the abandoned huts as a kind of symbolic, semi-ironic blog post, or I don't know, and we painted it in camouflage. This is us painting, and then another part of the project, because things then, as probably, I work with sound and I came from musical background, and the project I just demonstrated, Glitch Stream, was my introduction to the theme of radio art and working with radio, and I collected some recording from shortwave radio frequencies, and mainly it was so I was interested in recording of radio amateur radio, ham radio, and it was full of hate speech and rivals, because part of radio amateur communities also split. So I used that recording of that which captured that moment as a part of also sound installation, but I also created a digital version of camouflage and projected that digital camouflage from inside building in one of windows. So yeah, it's kind of juxtaposition of physical camouflage with digital camouflage. beside my personal and collective project, I also did several curatorial projects, and for me the most important experience when I was invited in 2017 to create a special program for a media festival called Tetramatica. I invited several artists, Ukrainian sound artists, so each artist prepared broadcast for particular point in the city, and here you can see several spots across Lviv which dedicated to industrial heritage of the city. The point which I was interested was mainly outskirts or former outskirts. So basically it was several radio stations, but with very limited radius of broadcast. So it was low power radio transmitter which functioned 24 hours 7 days a week, and all of them touched different strategy. It was like working with more archives, interview people, or just musical performance which express different kind of attitude, artistic attitude to a particular place. As a curator, I decided to do curatorial guided tour through all this location, and at some point this is basically a map of that guide. At one day we met at 10 a.m. and we walked through this location with a group of people. It was drop-in experience, but with the core of some people we spent almost a day. We walk through one point to another, then we switch on our radio receiver and listen to this broadcast and discuss it and talk on different topics. But for me, this experience and of walking, listening practice was one of the most rewarding. And I started from that point, 2017, develop the methods which I called radio walk. First I did it in London in 2018, and more mature work was prepared in New York City in 2018, where I decided to touch such subject as history of World Fair, which was held twice in New York City, and the same location, park which is now called Flushing Meadows Corona Park in Queens, and several other problematics was involved, like modernization of American society and some streamlined futurism which was invented back then. So I researched this topic a bit, and then I recorded a broadcast for several points in the city, and then at the day of presentation I invited visitors join me, and we worked together and listened to that composition. But I consider the most successful and culmination of that period was the project The Politics of Media Art, and I created in 2018 in another residency. I was invited to attend Ars Electronica Festival in City Linz, and it was 14th anniversary of that festival, and I decided to work with huge archive of that festival, which basically considered as a kind of main mecca of media art, and their prize, Golden Nika, considered as a top achievement, as Oscar in the sphere of new media art. But yeah, around that I also considered a lot of problematic points, how it's all this new media also depends on development of commercial computer graphics, and also how it all relates to neoliberal agenda. So it was kind of critical exploration on history of Ars Electronica, which was presented again as a radio walk.
right bank of the Danube is an artificially created landscape that served as the basis for the development of the Linz Cultural Mile. The catalyst was the catastrophic flood of 1954, with water levels rising up to 9.62 meters. By the 1957, the present-day dams were completed as a safeguard against flooding.
projecting media archaeological and genealogical insights into the present and future, we are asking speculative, historical, and yet constantly contemporary questions. What are media? When are media? And how do they mediate the production of reality?
The institutionalization of media art began at the end of the 1960s. Different initiatives developed platforms for the production and distribution of electronic art outside of the established art institutions. At the same time, they explicitly positioned themselves between the cracks of classic artistic genres and concepts of artistic or economic success.
That exceptional moment, broadly defined at the international level by embedded liberalism, at the national level by social democratic consensus, and at the economic level by Fordism, has been falling apart since the 1970s.
Yeah, so it was my last, let's say, project I did in Europe before I relocated for a long time to USA, where I won Fulbright scholarship and decided to kind of reinvent and to reconsider my practice to study there at MFA program, Arts and Digital Technology. It was in Arizona State University in Tempe, Phoenix. It was quite fruitful, productive time for me when I tried to reconsider my musical roots, because I came from musical, electronic music and even club DJ background. But also I was very curious how to find really very effective, not effective, but effective way to engage audience and to provoke some critical thinking, not by means of which I did before in this radio walks, just linguistically, verbally and logical reasoning, but more by means of creating a fact situation. And also I was very curious how to involve as much people as I can in co-creation of art. That's why I turned and tried to reconsider the heritage of interactive media art, especially interactive sound art. I deliberately decided in my final project not to use visuals, computer graphics, but concentrated on sound, which was very tightly connected to analysis of movement of visitors. I call this work Affective Mobilization after work of Steve Goodman, which in turns was student of Brian Masumi, and affect theory quite influenced me. I think that this area where you can convey some really important political message by means of movement and sound without any words or logical outside of logocentric framework, for me it's very interesting. Unfortunately, the influence of visual media, especially internet, it's so powerful, so it's very hard to use visual channel which is already overloaded. My main aim now to share awareness about situation in Ukraine, fight disinformation, and for sure fight back this right-wing dictatorship, let's say, tendency around the world. And for sure it was very first exploration, and I'm now working on extending it, and especially by reconsideration of heritage of experimental theater form. Especially I'm interested in reconsideration of forum theater, which was one of the format of theater for Prest by Augusto Boal, but for sure I'm looking how not to use verbal language as such, but more like language of the body and music inside these interactive environments, and how this can be real sense-making experience, thought-provoking, and how we can generate new knowledge by means of that.
Oh, flash?
The sensor, like the
You can always leave.
wordness of it. It's like, I don't know. I can.
Who's the female singer?
It's from advertisement of the company. But
It'll start with you guys stand.
Welcome to the system. Use your tools and explore this space. Your collective activity rate is 7.5932. Loading next stage. Please stand by.
Think of a city. Any metropolitan city in the United States. Now think of its landmarks. Now think of this. What if a mass casualty situation arises? Would your department, hospital, or facility be prepared? Would you be able to handle a surge of patients with your current contingency plan?
Next stage. Think and move together.
If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach me. I hope my email will be provided on my webpage. And thanks so much for opportunity to talk to you, and looking forward. All the best.